south side of Vero Beach, you will find a beautiful old brick home that we refer to as the Hallstrom House and Farmstead. Axel Hallstrom was an immigrant from Sweden, arriving in the U.S. in 1898. He went to Chicago and worked in a wholesale florist there for a while. He went out to St. Paul, Minnesota, and got a job as a gardener for the J.J. Hill Estate. He married in 1902 a Swedish girl in Minneapolis, so they had one child in 1904 who was named Ruth. His wife was in ill health, and they moved to Florida in order to be in a warmer climate. The house was located on what is commonly known in this area as the Golden Ridge. It was a higher altitude than the rest of the county, and it was conducive to growth of both pineapples and citrus. We're about 50 yards from the railroad track, and he was able to export and ship all kinds of citrus fruit, what have you, on the railroad. He became very successful in the citrus business until his death. His daughter, Ruth, took over the running of the farm and was able to keep it in operation until the late 1980s.
Ruth Hallstrom was a wonderful woman and a wonderful model for all the young ladies in Indian River County. She had been a school teacher. She taught up at the little one-room school at Orchid. She actually traveled there by boat from the Oslo docks and would go up the river and teach at the school for a week and then come back home to see her family. She had the first Corvette in the county. She could sew, she played the piano. She was very active in the community, and Ruth was a charter member of the Historical Society when we first started 30 years ago.
Ruth lived here her entire life and passed away at the age of 95 in 1999. Upon her death, she left the house with all of its contents and 5 acres of land to the Indian River County Historical Society for it to be preserved as a historical site that people could come and see what life was like in the early 1900s. They left phenomenal records that were packed in boxes and trucks and what have you. That gives us a very accurate and lengthy history of the house.
When Axel was leaving to come to America in 1898, his father took out a pitcher. It's called a Flow Blue pitcher. It was the milk jug that the family had used. It came all the way from Sweden to New York, to Chicago, to Minneapolis, St. Paul, to Viking, and ended up here in Indian River County. And we have it here at the house. And the story that Ruth wrote down about this is stuck inside of the pitcher.
Upstairs in this home, we have a small room called our archive room, where there are thousands of records kept by this family. I'm holding just one notebook, but there are thousands. From these, we learn a lot about Sweden, for example, in World War II, because the Swedish relatives would write to Axel and tell him about, for example, the shortage of coffee. So Axel would take coffee beans and wrap them into small packages and mail them to Sweden so his relatives would have coffee to drink.
Many people don't realize that the Swedish people are the highest per capita coffee drinkers in the world. Twice a day they have coffee breaks, and they are called fikapaus, morning and afternoon. Coffee is really the Swedish tradition. We spend a lot of time trying to preserve the Swedish traditions that go with the house. And one of the things that we found in the house that Ruth had saved were some Christmas ornaments that came from Sweden. And in researching Christmas in Sweden, it's called St. Lucia Day. The Sunday closest, we have a celebration of St. Lucia.
When this house was built, it was a very beautiful, elaborate home in this area, something that was not seen around this area at that time.
One of the unique things about the Hallstrom house when you first walk in is, first of all, it doesn't look like a Florida home at all. It looks like a northern home. He built his house himself. It took over 10 years to build the house. The first thing people notice when they drive up is the beautiful red brick house. The red bricks were made in Georgia and came down on the train.
It was a real landmark in the county and has been throughout its entire life, and now we're able to visit it in all of its glory and see what life really was like, because it has been preserved just as it was when Ruth and Axel lived here in the house.
You will see the beautiful ceilings, you will see the beautiful chandeliers. We have linens and tablecloths and dishes that Ruth had. We have her souvenirs from her travels all over the world. We have her clothes through the centuries. So it's so unique when you come here. People who come say, I've got to come back because there's always more to see that we don't have time to explain to them. And we are just bursting with pride every time a visitor comes in, so we can show you and share our love of the house with you.
The docents who volunteer their time here are thrilled to be able to share the story that preceded the building and the living of this house. It is just a real treasure to have here in the county. The Historical Society is very appreciative to the Hallstrom family for this house and the quality of the records that were left so that we could establish the validity of everything here in the house. This is something that we hope will be around a long time for the upcoming generations to see what life was like in the early 1900s. It is just a real treasure to have here in the county.
This year we will be celebrating the 100th year of this Hallstrom house and what Ruth and her father accomplished and left for future generations.